Hi guys, hope everyone's well and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I'm going to be discussing an Oura ring review. So basically, those that don't know, the Oura ring is just basically like a smart device that tracks different metrics in regards to your health. So things like sleep, stress and activity. I've had one for 2.5 years, maybe 3, and I just wanted to do a review on it in case anyone's wondering what they could potentially invest in if they're trying to improve areas like their sleep, stress management, and to see if actually what they're trying to change and put into practice is actually benefiting them, is it actually helping them. So yeah, as you'll see, the rings, it's a bit bulkier than a normal ring, however it's extremely lightweight. You can see it's got some sensors on the inside and it doesn't look too bad on, to be honest. It's not crazy, it's not ridiculously different looking in regards to a ring. Like I said, it's a bit thicker than a normal ring, and like I said, it does track different metrics in regards to your health, which I'll go over. So you basically link it with your phone via Bluetooth, and it goes over things like your readiness being your readiness to train, readiness to exercise, how fatigued you are in other words, and as well as that your sleep, so how your sleep is on a daily basis in terms of how's your quality, how's your quantity, how much different, let's say, stages of sleep are you getting into, and also your activity, so how much movement you're doing on a daily basis, tracking things like your steps, and then some other bits of information. And as you see, like, the information it does give you is quite extensive in regards to, it tells you a lot. Like, it will tell you about your body temperature, your resting heart rate, it will tell you your respiratory rate, your HRV balance, which is basically your heart rate variability, which is one of the main metrics that determines how fatigued we are. Your heart rate variability, we basically want a lot of variability with our heart rate, and what that basically means is we want it to be nice and low when we're sleeping, but to be able to increase quite drastically, whereas if your heart rate's constantly elevated, you'll have a lower heart rate variability, which is generally a sign that you are carrying a bit more fatigue than usual. For myself, that's something it says I should pay attention to at the moment. And it tells you other metrics like how your sleep is, which will impact your readiness to train, your resting heart rate as well. So when you're typically training hard, when you're fatigued, your resting heart rate could increase, which could be a sign you potentially need to back off your training or deload. As for sleep, it tells you things like your efficiency, your time in bed, your total sleep duration, and like how restful you are, meaning like how do you toss and turn a lot during the night, or are you able to get in like a deep sleep pretty fine and not wake up at all, or have any disruptions, and things like your deep sleep and also your latency, which basically is how long it takes you to get to sleep, as well as your timing, and it tells you if these metrics are in a good spot or not. I'm not sure if it's focusing effectively, but I'll tell you, if it's red, it pretty much means it's maybe not in the best spot. However, if it's blue, it will tell you it's in a good spot as well, and you can compare obviously different nights of sleep, etc. Activity, bit less information to look at there. It basically tells you, are you moving every hour, which is potentially generally a good thing to do in regards to your health, and digestion, and it tells you if you're meeting your daily goals in regards to your step count, how much total calories you're burning on a daily basis. I'm unsure how accurate that is, to be honest, but it is something it does also tell you. So yeah, tons of different metrics in regards to your health, and in my opinion, it is pretty accurate and quite decent as a whole. I'm going to basically jump on the pros of the Oura ring, what I think's good about the device. So first of all, improving sleep. So one of the main benefits of it is it allows you to see, let's say, what changes have what effect. For example, I believe it is pretty accurate in regards to your like monitoring your sleep. Usually if like I think I've had a bad sleep, the Oura ring will reflect that, and something it's beneficial for is just improving it. So if, let's say, I am wanting to change something, let's say I'm wanting to start, let's say, putting a sleep mask on when I'm sleeping, or doing something like putting earplugs in to try and reduce noise, or sleeping with a fan on to change my body temperature when I'm sleeping, you can then look at the Oura ring, see, right, this week when I've made the change, my sleeps went up such and such duration, or the quality is much higher than the previous week when I wasn't putting that into place. Or if, let's say, you start supplementing with, let's say, magnesium, a common sleep supplement, you can see, is magnesium actually benefiting me in regards to sleep, or is it not having much effect? So you can see, right, are the changes I'm actually making having benefit to them, so you know if those are changes that are valuable to keep in, or if, let's say, there's no point in doing certain things in regards to sleep if it's not making much effect. And you can just compare averages over time in that regard. Obviously, you could maybe consider, is there any external factors influencing how accurate maybe the comparison could be. But yeah, like I said, another benefit of it is I believe it is pretty accurate. Like, it's pretty bang on in regards to measuring different bits of information. I never really look and think I've had any false readings or readings that are just don't seem that reliable to look at, if that makes sense, across the board. So with all the data, really. And in terms of even tracking your steps, I believe it's got an accelerometer, which is basically, it tracks movement back and forth. So instead of tracking, let's say, your GPS, so just you moving around, it will track the ring moving back and forward. So that will basically be tracked as steps, which you could say is good, because if you're, let's say, walking on a treadmill, then it will still track your activity in that regard. So it's nice and accurate. It's got kind of good information to track if, let's say, changes you're making are improving your recovery through your heart rate variability and resting heart rate, and also like your sleep. And another benefit to it is accountability. So I personally don't like seeing bad scores. I don't like seeing that I've slept poor. I don't like seeing that I'm not recovering well, really. I don't really pay attention, more to sleep. So if, let's say, I track my sleep, I'll look back on it and I've seen, right, I've not slept well, I've slept poorly, then I'll tell myself, right, get your finger out, come on, improve this next week. So it gives you a source of accountability, just like having a coach would be, your personal trainer, just to keep me accountable to sleeping well. Tells you when you're going to bed, tells you when you're waking up, so you can't really cheat yourself in that regard. It also has quite a good battery, so the battery life lasts, if I had to say, around 5 days, which is pretty great, to be honest. So I'm really happy with the battery life, because it means you're not having to put it on charge every single night. Because I know things like that Apple Watch, I believe like the basic one doesn't last very long in regards to charge. It will maybe last 24 hours at a push. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but I know one of the Apple Watches are like that anyway. So the battery is really good, so it never dies on you really, unless you always forget to charge it. And the charger that comes with it is quite small and compact. You can just plug it in via USB, and it's just kind of like a wee holder that you pop onto it that will charge it. And as well as that, like, the experience I've had with customer service has been absolutely great, which I will get to in a second. And the size of it is pretty good as well, so it's not like you've got to wear a massive watch on your wrist or that. Like, it just goes on your finger. It's quite discreet and it doesn't take up a lot of space, and you don't really feel it, and you forget you even got it on, actually. So yeah. And in terms of what I believe the potential downsides of the ring is apart from the sleep and maybe data with, let's say, your resting heart rate and your HRV to impact your recovery, how actionable is the information it's giving you? Meaning, how, like, what benefit can you get from that info? And what I mean by that is, if it tells me, like, obviously, if, let's say, my resting heart rate, like I said, that and HRV is going to be a sign if I'm fatigued or not. So if I potentially start meditating, then that's going to tell me if it's improving my recovery or not. And the benefit of that is, obviously, so I know if it's valuable to keep doing. Apart from that, like, how actionable is it knowing what your HRV is? How actionable is it going on your ring and knowing that you're not recovering, or your recovery is poor, and that you're fatigued from training? What can I do with that information? Not a lot. If I'm fatigued from training, I'm fatigued from training. It can tell you if it may be valuable to deload, but what's going to be more important is how you're feeling, how you're progressing in the gym, and how you are doing on a day-to-day basis in terms of performance. So if I'm still progressing in the gym, if I'm recovering from my sessions, and yeah, I might feel draggy, but I don't need a ring to tell me that. I don't need a ring to tell me I'm feeling a bit battered from training. So it doesn't really give me much actionable information in that regard. It tells me if I'm feeling a bit trashed, but I can already tell myself. So it doesn't really give you anything to action that information. And it's like, even if, let's say, I'll go on the Oura ring, I'll look at my readiness. It says my readiness is poor, meaning I'm fatigued. I'm still going to go to the gym. I'm not going to be like, my readiness is poor, so I'm not training today. So it's not that actionable in some senses. And what I've found myself is, as weird as it might seem, it can induce further stress. So if I open my Oura ring and I see I've slept poor, I'll be stressed about that. I'll be like, oh no, I've not slept well. Will I have a poor session? Will it go well? Do I need to have extra caffeine? And it can cause more harm than good, and it can also cause you what class is sleep stress, which means when you're trying to get to sleep, you're just stressed about trying to get to sleep, trying to have a good sleep, that much that it actually impacts your sleep negatively, having the Oura ring in the first place to track your sleep. So I personally have moved away from, I don't look at it on a daily basis. I don't really open the app unless it's to check my steps. I never ever look at my sleep. Now, what I'll basically do is I'll open it on a weekly basis when I'm checking in with my coach, look what my sleep is. Because what I found is I was going on the app, seeing my sleep in the morning, and then I was in a bad mood from the get-go and stressed about how I've slept poor, worrying about how my session would go. It is quite costly, the ring. I believe it is, I just looked it up, I think it's $299, which will work out to not much cheaper, and I think that would be around £250. I'll find that out now. But yeah, it's not the cheapest, but like I said, the customer service has been really good, which puts me on to another potential negative, the longevity. So it is £235 for those wondering. And with the longevity of the ring, this is actually my third one. However, customer service replaced my other two for free. So first time I had it, the battery was quite poor. The second time I had it, or the second replacement, no sorry, yeah, my first ring, my battery went quite poor. The second ring, I bent it doing Romanian deadlifts and it stopped connecting. I didn't tell Oura Ring that, so please don't tell them. And my third one's going strong. Saying that, have I took the best care of them? Maybe not. I've been like going in a hot bath with it on at times. Like I said, I was training with it on and doing Romanian deadlifts, so I had like 4 plates aside, and that weight's going down on the ring. So if you they say it's as sturdy as a normal ring would be, like, but would I do this with my wedding ring? Would I put a wedding ring on my finger and train in the gym with it? Probably not. So it's probably not the ring's fault, it's partly my fault, but every time it's broke, they've been really helpful. They've basically replaced it twice, and considering it's £235, that's quite great of them to do so. So the customer service is absolutely great, so I can't complain in that regard. They've replaced the ring 2 times, like I said. So would I buy it again? So for sleep and potentially assessing if changes you're making to your lifestyle, to maybe your supplementation, to your stress management protocols, to your sleep habits, your sleep hygiene, to assess if they're effective and working, then I'd potentially consider getting it again. However, it doesn't take rocket science to know that if you're meditating, then it's probably going to have a positive effect on your stress. And if you're, let's say you're organising your day, you're going to know it's going to promote less stress. Or if you're going to bed and waking up at a more consistent time, you know it's going to benefit you anyway. You don't really need a ring to tell you that. So with some things you're experimenting with that don't have a lot of like strong data behind them, it can be beneficial to have the awareness that if it's actually working or not. So it can be valuable in that regard. So that, and maybe steps to buy it for. However, I don't need one. They're not essential. If this broke and I couldn't get a replacement, I'm not sure if I would definitely get another one. I'd probably get like a cheap Fitbit or something to track my steps. If I felt like I wanted one in the future or needed one, then I'd maybe buy one. But I wouldn't be like desperate, and I'd be able to live without it, put it that way. But I'd maybe consider, like, if I felt like getting one and I felt like it could be valuable, maybe getting one in the future. But the main thing I use it for is just steps now, really, because with my sleep, I still have a good sleep wake routine. Like, I'll keep everything nailed to my best of my ability, so it doesn't really influence my decisions that much in regards to my sleep or anything in that regard. But the customer service is great, it's accurate, it can be valuable to looking at if certain variables are improving certain metrics, and help give you a good bit of accountability. But there's some cons that go around with it. It's not the most cheapest, maybe not the most durable, and as well as that, like I said, it can induce further stress, and some things aren't that actionable about it. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more content like this, then just drop any potential suggestions below, and thank you very much for watching.